Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I hope you all are fine and staying safe at home. So dear students, I am your biology teacher and today the topic which we are going to study, that is about the different types of transport or the different types of movement of the molecules and water into and out of the cell. So as you know dears, we are in the unit number 4, that is about the cells and tissues, and the topic which we are going to study today, that is about the diffusion. So dear, diffusion is a type of movement, it is a type of transport in which the movement of substances occurs from the different types of concentration. For example, we say that the diffusion is a type of process in which the random movement of substances occurs from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration is called diffusion. So dear students, in this the movement of molecules occurs from the region of higher to the region of lower concentration, and we all know that the movement of molecules from the region of higher to lower is very easy and it do not require any kind of energy for its movement because they are moving from the higher to the lower concentration. For example, as I have given you the example of a water pump in the previous lectures. For example, if we fill up the water tank in our homes which is upside our houses, and when we open the taps in our washrooms or in our kitchen, so the water moves easily from the region of higher to the region of lower concentration and it do not require any kind of energy. So dear students, diffusion is basically a slow process. The cell membrane does not spend energy when molecules diffuse through it. We are here talking about a cell. For example, if a cell is different million types of cells are present in our body, and these cells are placed in our body in a solution because our body is filled up with water. So all the nutrients and materials which are present in our body or the food which we are taking in, they are present in our body, so they are diffusing into the cell that the cell can take up those nutrients and utilize those nutrients for their proper growth, for their proper functioning. So dear students, the cell membrane which covers the cell, they do not need energy for the transport of such kind of molecules which are moving from the region of higher to the lower concentration. So the diffusion is also known as a passive transport. Now dear, what is passive transport? Basically, as I have told you in the previous lecture, that we have two types of transport, that is the active and passive transport. And passive transport is the type of transport in which the molecules moves from the region of higher to lower or from the lower to higher without using the energy, without expenditure of energy. So the molecules do not require any kind of energy. So that is why the diffusion is known as the passive transport. So only a small molecules can diffuse through the cell membrane because the larger molecules cannot diffuse through the cell membrane because the larger molecules are not allowed to pass through the cell membrane, and the cell membrane is not that much permeable that it can allow all the molecules to pass through it. So dears, in plant molecules, that is the oxygen and carbon dioxide can easily diffuse into and out of the leaf cells through diffusion because these are the smaller molecules, and those cells, those leaves, those mesophyll cells are designed like that oxygen and carbon dioxide get easily diffused into and out of that mesophyll cells. Dears, the leaves of the cells are known as the mesophyll cells. So in animals and humans body, the glucose is present in higher concentration after the food is digested in small intestine. Now dear, what does it mean? We all know that we take in the food material, or we for example, if we are taking the food, so the food is in the form of glycogen, it is in the form of a glucose. So the food which we are taking, that is in the amount of higher concentration, because for example, as I have taken the breakfast now, or I am taking a lunch now, so that food will go inside into my body and will digest in the stomach and will properly completely digest it into the intestine, into the small intestine of my body. So what will happen? The glucose will be in higher amount in my small intestine or not? Yes, it will be in the higher amount in my small intestine. So therefore the glucose will be transported to the villi from the inner space of the small intestine through diffusion to be stored in the liver. Now what does it mean, dears? It means that the glucose which is present in the small intestine, so it will now transported to the villi. Villi are the smaller structures present on the small intestine in which the molecules, in which the glucose will be further taken in or will be transported to that villi. So after transporting it to the villi, they will be stored into the liver. So from the region of higher concentration, for example from the region of the small intestine, they will be transported to the villi and into the liver, where the concentration of glucose is low and they need the glucose. So dears, the next type of movement, that is the facilitated diffusion. Now what is the difference between the simple diffusion and the facilitated diffusion? Dears, it is also the type of movement in which the molecules move into and out of the cells with the help of a transport proteins. Now what are transport proteins? Dears, transport proteins are the type of proteins present on the surface of a cell, on the cell membrane. So a type of proteins are present on the surface of a cell, on the cell membrane, which are known as the transport proteins and which help in the diffusion of some larger molecules which are not allowed to pass through the cell membrane easily. So the movement of molecules into and out of the cell with the help of transport proteins present in the cell membrane is called the facilitated diffusion. So many molecules cannot diffuse through the cell membrane due to their size or charge. So such molecules are taken into or out of cells with the help of transport proteins present in the cell membrane. Now the transport proteins helps to move a molecule from higher to lower concentration without the use of any energy. It is also the type of passive transport. So dear students, as I have told you that the diffusion is also known as the passive transport because it do not requires any kind of energy, and same like the simple diffusion, the facilitated diffusion also do not requires any kind of energy. So here dears, in this diagram a cell membrane is given. The plasma membrane is also known as the cell membrane. So it is the structure of a cell membrane. Well, here inside this plasma membrane, here is the cytoplasm, and outside the cell membrane, that is the extracellular fluid. Sorry dears. So here for example, as you can see the protein over here, so this protein is present in the cell membrane, which will allow some particles which are larger in size or which have a different charges to pass through the cell membrane. So these transport proteins helps in the movement of molecules, of those molecules which are larger in size and are having a different charge to pass through the cell membrane. So dear students, the next topic which is about the diseases. So basically according to Rudolf Virchow in 1858, he said that any disturbance in our body that is known as the disease, or all the diseases are disturbance at the cellular level. For example, if there is any kind of disturbance in our body at the cellular level means in the cells level. So if there is any kind of diffusion in any one kind of cell in our body, so it means that we are having any kind of diseases. So diseases, there are different types of diseases that first we are going to study about the diseases due to gene function. So the changes in gene function may be the reason for various diseases. Now we know that what is gene? The gene is basically the hereditary material which is present inside the cell in the nucleus, which is responsible for the different information of our body. So if there is any kind of problem in that gene, so there must be a chances of various diseases. So dear, the diseases and cell biology will always try to treat a disease, and for this we try to find out the cause for the disease, because if we came to know about the disease, so then we started to know about that disease, that basically what is the cause of the disease. For example, in previous centuries, malaria was when the malaria was invented and people were dying from the malaria, so they were not known about the causes of the malaria. So first the scientists started to research on the causes of malaria, and then they came to a point that they have invented a treatment for the malaria. So for example, same like that, in today's now we are having a coronavirus, which is a disease and which is causing various disorders in human body, and basically same like the malaria, different deaths are occurring from the corona. So the scientists first started to research for the cause of that coronavirus, that what is the cause of coronavirus, and now they are trying to find out the treatment for that COVID. So the cell biology is important from causes to the treatment. So the cell biologists, those who studies about the cells, are responsible for to find out the causes of that disease and to find out the treatment of that disease. So cell biology is the important field of biological science, and it leads to a successful career. So now who are the cell biologists? So dear, cell biologists are those who examines how cells develops and how it works. The studies about the cells, what kind of organelles are present in the cells and which functions are occurring in the cell. So all these are examined by the cell biologists. So dear, the careers in cell biology, so studying cell biology mainly leads to the following successful careers. For example, a molecular biologist is a person who studies about the molecules and the processes inside the cell. As I have told you, in the cells different molecules and organelles are present which are performing their specific functions. So the processes which are occurring inside the cells and the molecules which are present inside the cells are studied by the molecular biologist. Then a research specialist. So research specialists are those who conduct and report research in the research laboratory. For example, as I have given you the example of a COVID vaccine or a COVID virus, a coronavirus. So a person who are conducting or reporting about the coronavirus in the laboratory, who is studying about the coronavirus in the laboratory and doing continuously researches about that vaccine, so that person is known as the research specialist. Then a laboratory technicians. So a laboratory technician assists the scientist in their research. They help the scientist in their research because they are the laboratory technician. They know very well about all the tools present in the laboratory, and they also knows the usage of those tools very well. So they help the scientist to perform different functions in different researches. The biology teacher. So a graduate of cell biology could be a biology teacher who teaches cell biology at graduate and secondary level. So dear, the next type of transport you can say is that is the osmosis. So dear, it is the diffusion of, basically osmosis is the movement of water molecules from the different regions. Yes, osmosis, here the word is used, basically the word osmosis is used for the water. So it is the diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane. So the movement of water molecules, that is known as the osmosis. So osmosis is controlled by relative concentration of solutes in the water on both sides of the membrane. Here we will talk about the inside and outside of the cell. So the water always moves from a hypotonic to a hypertonic solution. Now dear, what are hypotonic and what are hypertonic solution? So hypotonic is the type of solution with the lower concentration of solute. Those solutions which are having a high amount of water while a low amount of solute concentration, that type of solution is known as the hypotonic solution. While the hypertonic solution is the type of solution with the higher concentration of solute while the lower concentration of water. So dear, the osmosis in different solution. Now we have different types of solution, that is the hypotonic and hypertonic solution. So the hypotonic solution is the type of solution in which a cell is having a less amount of solute concentration. So hypotonic solution, the solution is said to be a hypotonic solution for a cell which has a lower solute concentration than the cell. For example, if we placed a cell in a solution, in a hypotonic solution. So what will happen when we placed animal and plant cells in a hypotonic solution here? So the movement of water in the cell will be more, because in the hypotonic solution the water is high in amount, while in the cells the water is not in that much high amount. So what will happen? The water will move from the region of higher to the region of lower concentration, and due to this movement of water inside the cell, in this condition what will happen? The animal cells will swell and may rupture, while the plant cells become turgid due to their hard cell wall. The plant cell will not rupture because the plant cell wall is turgid, is hard. This is the diagram of a hypotonic solution. For example, this is the hypotonic solution in which we have placed an animal cell and a plant cell. So inside these cells the amount of water is not that much as it is in the hypotonic solution. So the water will move from outside into the animal and into the plant cell. So what will happen? The animal cell will swell to that extent that it may rupture, while the plant cell will become turgid. Turgid means that they will not rupture because they have a hard cell wall, due to which they are their cell will become fixed. So dear students, the next type of solution, that is the isotonic solution. The solution is said to be isotonic when a cell and the in which the solution and the cell is having the same amount of concentration of solutes and water inside and outside of the. For example, if we are taking in the solution in which the amount of water and solute is equal to the amount of water and solute present inside the animal and plant cell. So if we place that animal and plant cell in such type of solution, what will happen? So the rate of osmosis outside is equal to the rate of osmosis inward, because the water and solute concentration are equal in amount. So both the outward and inward movement will be in equal amount. In such conditions, the animal cell will retain their volume constant, while the plant cell becomes flaccid. They will become loose because the net uptake of water is not enough, and we know that the plant cell requires a high amount of water. So because of the not amount of presence of water, what will happen? The plant cell will become flaccid, will become loosened. That is the diagram of an isotonic solution. Here in this isotonic solution, the inward and outward movement is equal. So what will happen here? The animal cell will remain normal because it do not require that much amount of water as the plant cell, and the plant cell will become flaccid. So there, the next type of solution, that is the hypertonic solution. Now from this word it indicates hyper means a higher amount. So the solution which has a higher salt concentration than the cell is called the hypertonic solution. For example, when animal and plant cells are placed in hypertonic solution, so the water moves out, because in that solution the amount of water will be low and the amount of solute will be high. So the water from the cell will move outside to the hypotonic solution. In such conditions, the animal cell shrink in size, and in plant cell the cytoplasm shrinks within the cell wall. So dear students, that is the diagram of a hypertonic solution in which the solute is very high in amount while the water is low in amount. So the water present in the water, what will happen? The osmosis will occur. The water from the plant and from the animal cell will move outside to the cell, outside to the solution, and due to the movement of water and due to the osmosis, the animal cell and plant cell, they both will become shrink, will plasmolized. So dear students, that was all for your today's lectures. Thank you so much. I hope there will be no problem. Stay safe, stay home. Allah Hafiz.